Hi everybody. Okay, happy Tuesday. Although it feels like a Wednesday, according to the storyline, but I'll get that. Okay, so because of how they did it, I'm gonna bounce around a little bit, but it's gonna make sense. Okay, so we start with Phyllis in I think she's in Crimson Lights because she was having breakfast. So um, and she runs into Victor and she's talking to him and he's like, yeah. But I don't really think he believes her in what she's saying. But he's polite, so he doesn't say that, right? Okay, so they finish the conversation and he leaves. And she's alone and she's eating breakfast. And then Nick happens to come in the door. So, um, I've talked about this before a little bit, but only in the case of Sharon. Sharon's case. I didn't mean to do that. Okay, so what I mean is he has a savior complex, but usually it's focused on Sharon. But he's still doing it with Phyllis too, because he's trying to tell her that stuff is coming, bad stuff is coming, and the way to get out of it is to leave now or get out of it now. And she's not hearing it at all. And then I found out something about Phyllis's past that I didn't know. Her father, because we don't really talk about her family that much. I mean, her family. We know about her kids and everything, but not her family. So I didn't know anything. Her father was a criminal, and she's the one who turned him in. So he went to prison because of her, right? Okay, I didn't know that. It makes a lot of sense as to the kind of person she is now that I know that because I've always seen Phyllis as a strong woman, which is cool. But I always thought that I always wondered why she was so strong. And I knew there had to be a reason why and like a backstory. I just didn't know about it. So, and that makes me see her in a different light because she kind of had to survive on her own. I mean, the only other piece that's missing is I don't know anything about her mother, so I don't know. But yeah, okay. So Phyllis thinks that she still knows what's right, and that Nick is just trying to get involved and tell her what to do, and she doesn't like that, and she's never like that. Now that much I do know. So when he comes to her and says, "Don't do this," she takes it as, "What, you don't trust me or you don't believe in what I'm doing?" And she takes it as a slight when he says, "Get out of it." So, okay, there's that piece. And then the other piece is Sharon is going to see Noah, although she hasn't left, and they've talked about it for 2 days now, so I don't know. I guess. Well, I mean, obviously, it has to deal with the new Noah's start date, and I do know this much: when you sign a contract with somebody, um, you can't start until your start date. So they may be waiting on that. Okay. So Sharon's at the Crimson Lights, and she's talking to Esther, and Esther says, "You gotta get ready to go." And Sharon says, "Don't worry about it. I've already packed." Um, so, okay. And then it just so happens that Tessa and Daniel come through the door with some interesting news for Sharon. Now, this is kind of interesting for me because I've been waiting to hear what happened with Mariah that caused her to need to go somewhere to get extensive help, right? But we've gotten bits and pieces of it and like a little flashback here and flashback there. So now we have a little more full, complete story as to what happened that night between Mariah and the guy. Now, I assumed it was Ian Ward, um, because he looked exactly like, I mean, not exactly, but like very close to him, same kind of age, the thing. So I said, okay, maybe he just hid and he wants people to think he's unalive, but he's not, and he did something to her. That's what I thought at first, right? Well, the story comes out that Mariah was at a bar. She was kind of drinking, and then she meets this guy, Will. They give him a name, and he starts drinking with her. And apparently they like each other and whatever. So they leave the bar and go up to a hotel room or a room. And then we don't know what happened in the room. But um, according to what the hotel people told them, the guy left before Mariah did. And he was so scared, he almost forgot to take back his credit card and stuff like that. And then you have to go back and remember that Mariah said, I almost unalived somebody. Remember that? That was weeks ago. Okay. So it's again a puzzle I'm trying to construct with all the pieces that I have at my disposal now, but I don't have the full picture yet. So that's as far as we know about Mariah up to this point. Now, I think that Mariah was upset and a little lonely because of what was going on with Tessa at the time, her and Tessa at the time. And she may have done something she regrets in that room, but at this point, we don't know what that is. So, okay. Then we move on to, I guess, the biggest piece of today, which is Jess Walton. Jill is still around, and she decides to go to the Newman house, and Nikki is talking to her and basically saying, I can't believe that you chose to see Kane instead of Billy first. But Nikki didn't know that Billy was at the same place as Kane, too, which we knew, but she didn't. So, and then Jill felt guilt. Jill, I feel like she finally felt how Billy feels around her. Of he doesn't feel good enough for her, that he doesn't know if she loves him on a daily basis and stuff like that. And what was sad is that apparently Jill had a flashback in her own head of how that's how Catherine Chancellor made her feel. And Catherine Chancellor, as we know, is her mother, right? But there was always this dynamic of, yeah, Catherine expected more from Jill than Jill could give. That's what I always felt. And I was a kid at that point. And I always knew the dynamic was strange. But now we know why. Because Jill was feeling inadequate the whole time. And now she's kicking herself because she feels like she gets how she makes her own child feel that way. And it's kind of one of those things, I'm guessing, that you say, I'm never going to make my kid feel like that, or I'm never going to do that, or, that kind of thing. And then you end up doing it anyway. So, and then we have a slight moment of tenderness between Nikki and Jill, because Nikki knew Catherine very well. They were best friends. We all know this, right? So Nikki says, Catherine loved you. And then that's when Jill said, but I didn't feel it all the time. Or I wasn't, or she said, I didn't know all the time. Yeah. And then I guess the final moment between Jill and Nikki was Nikki's convinced that Jill's the only one who can talk some sense into Kane. So she says, you may be whether you like it or not, you may be our last hope with Kane. So, and then Jill pipes in real fast. Yeah, no pressure. So I love their dynamic because you can see a bit of hostility, but then Jill always puts in the barbs to make it funny at the end of the day. So I enjoy that. So there you go. There's your whole YNR episode for today. Okay, bye everybody.